Hi everybody, thank you very much for swinging in today. Welcome, I'm Paul Stephenson, a professional photographer, filmmaker, former art director, creative for the best part of 35 years, simply because that's all I've ever been able to do, because I'm not very good at maths. That's why I don't play darts, because I can't subtract very well. Firstly, I'd like to thank Andrew Charlton, a big up to Hashtag Events for bringing a little bit of so-called normality to some very difficult times we're all experiencing as business folk, and being able to virtually network and share ideas, maybe meet new people, and just continue to hopefully grow our business together in a more positive manner. So today, what I'm here to share with you is a little bit about me, so we get that trust that you're in safe hands listening to a pro. And also, more importantly, how I could persuade you to progress your business or grow your business simply by taking your photography, be it PR, product, whatever, anything to do with your business to a different level by hiring professional, qualified photographers, be it filmmakers, directors, and just really, embracing image. Because after all, that's what our businesses are all about. So for the past 15 years of my life, I've spent it mainly working in the film industry, UK and overseas, globally, which has seen us travel very extensively, working on film sets with some of the big stars of our time, working for Netflix, you name it, Prime, all of those TV channels, streaming channels that is in your front room, no doubt, for the past 6 months, especially since lockdown, and probably a good few of those, my stills are appearing on your TV menus as we speak. Haven't worked with some of the greats like Sir John Hurt, who I was very privileged to have been the last photographer before he passed to shoot his final stills, his portraits, which was personally asked for and appeared in Italian Vogue, which I'm very proud of. Together with recently working with David Tennant again and Michael Sheen, some of the great British actors. No doubt it's living a dream every time that I walk on set, and a long way away from where I started originally working in newspapers and the Newcastle Evening Chronicle and Journal, of all things as a graphic artist, not a photographer. So what I'm really here to talk to you about is, as a business owner, I just feel it's super essential that you put down your mobile phone, taking your selfies, taking little shots of your products, and consider hiring in a professional photographer, albeit a filmmaker. There's a lot of reasons for that, but in the main, what you're hiring when you bring in a photographer, if he's good of course, or if she's great, is experience, knowledge, the equipment, the investment that they've made into top quality lenses, something that you won't get off a mobile phone, for instance. And every penny you spend on that photographer, you're going to get back tenfold in your business. Believe me, I've been doing this long enough. It'll really lift your website, your whole brochures, essentially your whole business image. Your image, the first port of call that clients, prospective clients, see. So why would you not ever consider spending a small investment in hiring the best to make your business look the best? When your mate who's equally got a great camera says, look mate, look, why don't I do your photos for you, you've got those products, drop them off at the weekend, I'll photograph them for you for free. Just avoid that, straight away. Anybody who's going to do something for free, normally in my experience, the photos don't turn up on time, there's something gets in the way of it, your deadlines push, your designer who's designing your website is knocking on your door asking where are these photographs, and simply because your pal who's doing it for nothing has forgot, you know, crazy. So I implore you, look local, because I believe in that passionately, the shop local at all times of business. There's so much talent around, you know, just around the neighborhood. But please get online, find a photographer or a videographer who knows what they're doing, have a look at the portfolio. You know, a lot of people suggest, well, I've got some products to shoot, so therefore I need a specific, specialized photographer. A lot of people believe in that. Me personally, I don't. I think anybody who can nail a wedding, be it a wedding, I think a wedding photographer, weddings are probably the most difficult events to photograph, especially nowadays. Speed's in essence, details in essence. A lot of the bride and grooms now, they want all of their products, their dresses, the shoes, the jewelry, all photographed. Essentially product photography. So you don't be put off by that, you know, oh, I'm just a wedding photographer, I don't do that. You know, it's very well worth approaching anybody who has got a portfolio of weddings in the bag. A young graduate's always a good idea. He needs experience if he's starting out, and I'm all for that, you know. They're keen, they've been to college, so they've got, you know, relatively decent experience and possibly good equipment if they can afford it. And obviously they're going to be trying to build their portfolio up and bringing new ideas to the table. So it's very worthwhile perhaps thinking about approaching a local art school if you're on a tight budget. Set them a live task, for instance, a live project, and therefore you might get a selection of the students producing work on your behalf, you know. So that's always, I'm always pushing young people as well. I've had many apprentices and assistants over the years who've went on to succeed. And the only way you learn, as you know, is doing the job and doing it right. So yeah, go ahead, go have a look at your local colleges. Right then, portraits. Just like me sitting here in front of these lights, very uncomfortable. I always prefer to be behind the camera. Much like all of us, you know, even some professional, but especially actors, they, you know, when they're out of character, they're very uncomfortable in front of a camera, you know. Much like us, I'm yet to meet somebody who's really, really comfortable in front of a camera. So I want to talk about with your business, and let's talk about social media and the image that your first image that people see. Now, I'd love to go through all of your LinkedIn profile photos and just let's have a look at those, because a lot of what I see, it's I think everybody needs to reconsider the image they're portraying when you first click on there. Of course, we've got the usual from just the Christmas dinner, you know, you've cut off half the family because you just like the way you're standing there in your Christmas jumper, or at the works night out, you know, or just a selfie. And I just think that's wrong, you know, in my personal opinion. The first thing people's going to see is you, and if it looks like you just can't be bothered, you've just done a quick selfie and, oh, that'll do, stick it up there, then I think that's showing the wrong image immediately. Whereas if you'd had a lovely portrait taken, maybe lit in a studio by a professional who treated in post-production and, you know, really made a quality image and used that throughout your brand, then I think that says a hell of a lot more words than a dodgy selfie. So my point being, once again, put the phone down. If you are going to have your photograph taken on a phone, get somebody else to do it perhaps, you know. Go and stand next to a window, just let that light, just natural light stream in, you know. Don't go photographing it in the middle of a street or a busy office or a complicated background. You know, you don't see behind me a complicated background. Think about it. Think about investing in a nice set of portraits. And the good thing is, you know, if you happen to be a keynote speaker or if you need a magazine article written about you or a press, you've got that photograph to pull to all the time. Plus, that's a really great way of getting to know a photographer. Once he does your portraits, perhaps you know, shoot the rest of it, your PR, your press shots, maybe portraits, and you have your team, and brand shots for your website. Something to bear in mind as a business person when hiring a photographer is the contacts that the photographer may have. You know, we work collectively in quite a small industry. Creative industries is. Amount of times I bump into people that I've worked with in the past, it's quite scary at times, you know, in this country and the other country. So think about their contacts. You know, they might have a great web designer friend, a colleague, a logo designer, be a filmmaker, etc., etc. So that just might extend your business very quickly without trawling through Google and etc. and making lots of phone calls. So when talking to a photographer, don't forget as well to also check on their insurance policies. You know, the professional indemnity, the public liability. If you're handing over like very valuable products to their studio, for instance, and something breaks, goes wrong, there's an accident, you know, legally, where do you stand there if they've got no insurance policy? And I think it's only good working practice anyway, collectively as business people, that we not only look after your clients, but look after yourself as well, you know, and your family. Last thing you want to do is end up in court under some sort of libel case or some other disastrous case. Oh, the number one question is how much? Well, how long's a bit of string is what I say. Every photographer charges a different rate, you know, obviously based on their experience. When it comes to product, I know photographers charge per product, and sort of product factories as well. They're called, you know, where in, out, bish, bash, bosh. That's all very well. But how I personally, and I can't speak for the photographers, sort of cost my times out is, let's take product for instance. If I was to be given a batch of products, I have to factor in how long it's going to take to physically photograph the things. So, you know, I bear in mind the setup, the lighting, etc. And I'm very particular, so everything has to be absolutely precise. So how I work that out is I look at the time and then charge on a daily rate per batch of products. You know, you could do a package, you know, say, well, that's going to cost that amount, 4 days, here's the price. But something to bear in mind if you're hiring in a photographer, and a lot of people, they forget about this, is the post-production side of things as well. It's all very well just taking snaps, but most of your time nowadays is spent processing. Obviously back in the day we had film cameras, so I would just shoot on film, get it right in camera, stick it in the darkroom, pick it up the next day, end of story. But now what happens, I shoot say 500 shots, I have to physically go through each shot, color balance, edit, you know, take out labels if it's product you might require, you know, or add things in, and all that adds up time. In fact, that's the most time-consuming process of photography. So always find out the additional costs, be it the shoot cost together with the post-production costs. Now, sometimes there's another cost included, which I'm going to speak about right now. Something to bear in mind, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, especially as business owners, is licensing and release fees, etc. for the photography. I deal with this frequently working in TV and film, where contracts upon contracts, just to protect the rights of the image rights to the production or the artists themselves, who are, you know, the larger the star, the more we're protecting their brand. You know, so they don't want to be seeing a photograph that they're not happy with going out in the, you know, on a magazine or a billboard on the side of a cinema. So I have contracts where I have to sign, which protects the film company and also protects myself on my side. But what's great there is there's a buyout fee always included as well. So what they're paying for is my time, my post-production time, and a fee which buys the rights to my digital negatives, for instance, which is always a good way of looking at that. Back in the day, say for instance a wedding photographer, me included, would have to pay a lot of money to get a hold of the original negs, you know, from the photographer, because he makes his money charging you XYZ for prints. You know, that's where his repetitive money is. Very much like now with licensing fees and release fees. You know, I'll give you a great example. I did a shoot for Asper's, the casino, and real big advertising campaign. But what was interesting, it was only one still in particular where the owner, Damien Aspinall, was very keen on licensing just that one image across the whole of his casinos. It was a throwaway image in my book. It was just one of the models on a B-roll, just picked up the chips and stuck them on her eyes. And he loved that, the owner. So they got in touch and said, hey, look, Paul, thank you very much. There's that invoice sorted for your time and your post-production on the whole suite of photos, but we're really interested in licensing that particular image for 5 years. And I'll tell you now, I made more money on that one photo than I made on the whole shoot. You know, so it's really important to bear that in mind. So when you do meet a photographer as well, always ask the question, is there a release fee or a licensing bill that I'm going to come unexpected to me as well, you know? And if you get all of that sorted out at the very initial meeting, then I'm sure you'll build a good relationship together. So everybody's a photographer now, you know, mobile technology, digital technology, and the new tech is really producing some stunning images, like the new iPhones, the Huawei's. That's how I've got a Huawei, and I bought that specifically for the camera. You know, it's great, but I treat that as a snap vehicle. You know, this is what I capture my little touristy images or the family parties, etc. I wouldn't dream of doing a full-time shoot using this, you know, only because, yes, the resolution is quite high, but the problem is the sensor within the mobile phones are small compared to a professional grade DSLR camera, where the sensors are large, therefore more pixels. So you know what it's like if you've got a low resolution image and blown up. You'll see it off your phone even. You blow it quite large, say if you needed a double page spread in a magazine or a poster, that camera isn't going to do the job for you, as well as a DSLR, which is designed specifically for that. And the other thing about that is, as I mentioned, and I hear it all the time, is everybody's a photographer. And we are, you know, we're capturing things. But not everybody has a good eye for photography. That's a natural ability. I really, truly believe that. And it's been demonstrated to me time and time again. One young apprentice I did have, he'd been to college, he got a graduate in photography and film and media, yet he didn't understand composition or framing or lighting something correctly. And it was so frustrating to me that he could use the camera, he was technically aware. So I think, in my opinion, yes, I can train people and teach people to use a camera, but I can't, for the life of me, teach them to take a good photograph, because that is a natural eye. So that's also something that you're really investing in when hiring in a photographer. You know, it's somebody who's not just passionate and he's got the latest gizmos and the latest camera and the latest lenses. If you see the state of my kit, it's battered, bruised, and without gaffer tape, I don't think I could actually work. Well, incidentally, there's something else to bear in mind. If a photographer turns up and he's got everything in new shiny bags and pristine, maybe they are OCD, or maybe it just hasn't been used. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of wear and tear, bit like me. You know, that's a sign of use, therefore, once again, a sign of experience. Lastly, I'd just like to talk about what I consider the spawn of Satan, i.e. stock images. Man, especially free stock images. How many times have you been on a website for an accountant and seen the usual calculator shot on the desk, the data sheets, the spreadsheet? Man, also, 9 times out of 10, I'll go on to, say, a legal site, and it's the same hammer, the legal book, etc., etc. There is some fantastic stock images out there. You know, you're talking Getty, who are using pro photographers to shoot a lot of setup shots as well, which are fantastic, but they carry a huge price tag as well, and it all depends on where you want to show that image. If it's on your website, you're going to be paying premium. If it's on social media, etc. Now, I'm not totally against using stock images. You know, if you've got a Christmas ad going out, you know, use a Christmas tree, use this. But if it's specific to your business and your product, then just try and avoid going down that path, because I guarantee your competitor, and I've got experience of this happening, is probably doing the same thing. And the last thing you want is to use the same image as a competitor. It'll just cheapen your brand immediately. You know, bang, your brand's, the value's out of it there. It happened to a hotel chain I worked for up in the northeast of England here, and it was a Christmas campaign, and the marketing manager at the time didn't want to spend budget on photography with me for a specific event. So instead went down the route of grabbing an image off a free stock site. Madly enough, a competitor hotel used the very exact image on their Christmas campaign in similar publications. So straight away, you know, it's the wrong message you're giving out there. It's confused for the clients. Is this the same hotel, for instance, they may ask? So my suggestion would be, where you can, we're all guilty of using a couple here and there, but try to avoid as best you can going down that route. After all, you're original, your business is original, your products are original. Why use something that's getting used daily in multiple thousands of times across the world? Oh, just a quick tip as well. You know, throughout this pandemic, we've all been Zooming, quizzing, etc. And there's something I think a lot of people have learned, especially when it comes to live video streams. For years, and I still see it, it drives me potty that people are still doing that when videoing. And your screen and your TV happens to be landscape. Bonkers. So every time you pick up to video yourself or to have video, even if it's at a gig, when we get back to that, or a show or whatever, just think about it, landscape. That way you don't need to turn your telly on its side. Makes life so much easier. So thanks everybody for hopefully sticking around, listening to my suggestions, my opinions, and hopefully any little tips that you've picked up today, you'll go ahead and apply and go hire that photographer. You know, we've been quiet, you know, during this epidemic. Go help somebody out, and equally they'll help you and hopefully help to push your business to a higher level when we finally come out of this. I'd be delighted to speak to you, to give some further advice as a soundboard perhaps, or hopefully perhaps do some work together, which I would love very much. So you can get me on my social media streams, Paul Stephenson at Instagram, Paul Stephenson Media at Facebook, and paulstevensonmedia.com on my website. It's been a pleasure. Take care, look after your families, take care of yourselves, and good luck for the future.